I'm here with Tony Pachota, Client Services Director with Market Source. How you doing today, Tony?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Damon.
Oh, good. Well, I appreciate you being here. So tell me a little bit about Market Source.
So Market Source is a sales outsourcing company. We partner with some of the most iconic and trusted brands in the industry, providing sales solutions across the ecosystem. Some of the industries that we are actually working with are automotive, IT, consumer electronics, to name a few.
So Tony, you mentioned that Market Source plays in the automotive industry. And so let's dive into that a little bit more. What are some of the challenges that you see in the automotive industry right now and that are facing this particular business?
I've got a quick question. Do you know what industry dealing in automotive is actually a $250 billion industry in the United States?
I figure you're going to tell me.
I do know that. Actually, it's the aftermarket wholesale business. In the aftermarket wholesale parts business, basically, there are consumers that do a couple different things. One is they either bring their vehicle in to a dealership to have service and parts done, or they have avenues outside of a dealership that they can utilize, which we call the independent repair facilities, or IRFs. And when you look at that industry over the last 20 to 30 years, unfortunately, the dealerships out there on the market have kind of let the aftermarket wholesale parts, that side of the business go. The Napas, the Advanced Auto Parts have kind of stepped in, the O'Reillys, and really have captured that. But when we bring it close back to the dealership, consumers out there still want that OEM part, that original equipment manufacturer part that came on their vehicle when they bought their car. The aftermarket companies, they say they have kind of that quality OEM type part, but truly it's not up to that same spec. So, what we've been able to really build is that avenue for dealerships to grow that business, sell back to the consumer, sell to the shop, and really provide that OEM quality part. And it's a huge revenue source for a dealership.
So it sounds like we understand the ecosystem fairly well, but how do you generate revenue for the dealership? Like, how do we take it from kind of a macro to more of a micro, level?
So, Market Source brings many years of experience, really in the full scope of a dealership. In an auto space, one of the key areas that is a growth area for revenue at a dealership is the wholesale parts business. And what we provide is not only years of experience in that, but really that feet on the street approach. Bringing our field representatives out in the field, tying in a dealership with the local shops, the local independent repair facilities, and really building that relationship. The key to that business is to make the phones ring in a dealership. If a dealership has someone answer the phone, they have a delivery driver, and they obviously have the parts, then those shops are more key to call them up and obviously use that OEM part. So with our experience in that sector, we've been able to really have great success providing a field team out in the market, and in some cases an inside team to support that, to really drive that revenue source in a dealership.
And when you talk about teams, are these manufacturers reps, or are they dedicated?
They are a dedicated team member, not that manufacturer rep model that even in the auto industry, there's a lot, that model is a big part of the industry. We have dedicated field representatives that have experience in aftermarket part sales that represent our OEM, represent the companies that we deal with, and really hit the streets with just marketing that product.
So Tony, Market Source helps businesses really capture the customer. We help drive revenue. Sounds like we really kind of bring this thing all together for the automotive industry.
Absolutely. So when you take a look at it, as I mentioned before, that aftermarket wholesale parts business, consumers as well as the independent repair facilities, the shops out in the market, they are looking to have that quality part. So when we looked at a dealership's model, and most of the dealerships obviously have the sales, service, the parts departments, their customers are their internal customers. But in that aftermarket space, there's opportunity there. The average consumer keeps their vehicle about 10 to 11 years now. It's up 4 to 5 years from about 8 or 10 years ago. So now that they keep them 10 or 11 years, they're not going back into the dealerships. They're going into the independent repair shops and the facilities out there. So if they're not coming to see you as a dealer, why not capture that part, and why not capture that revenue source by actually providing those parts? So in one of our partnerships that we have with an OEM, we were able to increase them year over year $20 million in wholesale part sales for their dealership network, and we're pretty proud of that.
That's amazing that you're able to drive that much revenue for an OEM. I'm sure that they were ecstatic with those results, but it sounds like we have a proven method that helps attain those kinds of results. Those aren't, things that happen by chance. And it sounds like that's working for that particular OEM. Tony, thanks so much for taking time to join us today. Will you come back and see us another time?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Damon.